Okay guys, now we are going to see the anatomy of the human respiratory system. This is the nose. Okay, so nose is the external respiratory organ. Through this only air from atmosphere enters and carbon dioxide, which is produced by each and every cell of our body, exits. Okay, so now I am going to show the line diagram. This is very important. So first understand the orientation. Assume you are seeing one person from side pose. Okay, one person is standing there in side pose. You are just focusing on his head. Okay, so this is the front and this is the back side or posterior part. This is the nose. Okay, below the nose is a upper lip and lower lip that encloses one cavity. That cavity is called oral or buccal cavity. Oral or buccal cavity that contains this blue color line is a tongue. Okay, these basic things we all know. Now see here, two more tube-like structures. Two more tube-like structures are present in the side view. See, this is one tube. This tube starts from above. Okay, just behind the nose. The part which is behind the nose, this part is called nasopharynx because it is present behind the nose. And the part which is present behind the, what is this cavity called? Oral cavity, and this is called oropharynx. See, so this entire tube like structure is a pharynx. The part which is present behind the nose is called nasopharynx. The part which is present behind the oral cavity is called oropharynx. Now see here below, one blue color tube extra, this tube like structure is there, isn't it? This tube like structure is called larynx. So the part which is present, the part of the pharynx which is present behind the larynx, that is called laryngopharynx. Okay, so total this entire tube-like structure is a pharynx only. We are going to divide based on the structure which is present in front. Okay, in front nose is there, so nasal, in behind the nasal cavity is nasopharynx, behind the oral cavity is oropharynx, and behind larynx is laryngopharynx. So what are the functions? That is very important now. So two important points are very important here. Pharynx. Okay, pharynx starts behind nasal cavity. Okay, because just now we saw in the diagram, isn't it? Pharynx starts behind nasal cavity. Three parts are there. What are the parts? Nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. Three pharynxes are there. Okay, three parts are there. Actually, that's a single tube only. We will, for a functional purpose, we are going to divide them into nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Next one is the larynx. Okay, larynx present below the oral cavity, isn't it? We saw in the diagram. So larynx present, see in this diagram, larynx starts below the oral cavity. See this diagram again, this is nose is here, this is oral cavity. This entire tube like structure is a pharynx. Below the oral cavity, in front of larynx, this cavity, this tube like structure is a larynx. We all know this is the front part, isn't it? You are seeing one person from side pose. This is the front of that person, and this is the back side or posterior part of that person. Okay, so we all know nose and oral cavity, everything is present in the skull bone only. Okay, so this is like a this is present in the skull bone. You will not be able to see these two structures. Listen, these two tubes are there, right? It is not seen outside, isn't it? It is not visible outside the body because here this part is covered by skin that together constitutes the neck. So these two tubes will, if you cut open the neck, then only you will be able to appreciate these two structures. One more point I want to mention here, larynx is anterior. Anterior means larynx is present in front of the neck and pharynx is present on the posterior aspect, just behind the larynx. These 2 points are very important. Now I am going to draw. Now we are going to trace only larynx. Okay, so this is larynx. This is larynx. Forget about pharynx. This is larynx now. Okay, larynx below it continues as trachea. Okay, trachea will be like this, ring-like structures, tracheal rings will be there. This is trachea. Now trachea below divides into two primary bronchi. Okay, so this is a primary bronchi. See, only the part of the primary bronchi is present inside the lung, that we will discuss again. Now primary bronchi divides into secondary bronchi. This is secondary bronchi. Now secondary bronchi further divides into tertiary bronchi. Now tertiary bronchi ends at the bronchioles. Okay, this is bronchioles. Now we will trace the thing now. Okay, larynx will be there, followed by trachea, then primary bronchi, then secondary bronchi, then tertiary bronchi, then terminal bronchiole. These are very important. Terminal bronchioles, then respiratory bronchioles. Why it is called respiratory bronchiole? Because gas exchange starts here. Okay, now this respiratory bronchiole opens into alveolus, which is a structural and functional unit of lungs. Okay, so larynx, trachea, primary, secondary and tertiary bronchi, then terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, at last is the alveolus. See this thing, till terminal, very very important thing, till terminal bronchiole the function is only the conduction of oxygen. So this is called conducting zone. Now question arises, from where the gas exchange starts. Gas exchange takes place at only two places. Where it starts at the respiratory bronchiole. Okay, and main target is the alveolus. So these are the respiratory zone. So respiratory pathway is divided into two zones, which are conducting zone, which is conducting zone is still terminal bronchiole, and respiratory zone. Respiratory zone includes respiratory bronchiole and alveoli. So now these are very important questions. Conducting zone starts from nose, it ends at terminal bronchiole, and respiratory zone starts at respiratory bronchiole. These two questions are very important. Okay, so basically we are dividing the respiratory tract into two zones. Okay, conducting zone is a lengthier zone when compared to respiratory zone. Respiratory zone just include respiratory bronchiole as well as alveolus. Their main function is to participate in gas exchange. Okay, now we'll see about each of the parts. Okay, this is the nose. Okay, so air enters the nose like this only. So if this is the front of the nose, okay, this is called external nostrils. External nostrils, we got two external nostrils. Okay, so see here, this is again we are seeing the nose in side view. This is the nose. Okay, here one tube like structure starts, that is called, we all know that is a pharynx, isn't it? Okay, so here only that external nostril is present. Two external nostrils are there. Okay, this entire chamber is called nasal chamber. The entire nose is called nasal chamber or nasal cavity. Okay, so this is a nasal chamber. Here one more opening is there. If there is something called external nostril, then there is another structure called internal nostril is also present. This is internal nostril. So nasal chamber is connected to nasopharynx via internal nostril. Okay, now we will trace the air entry here. So nose, air enters via external nostril, then nasal chamber, then internal nostrils, thereby it reaches the nasopharynx like this only. Okay, see this diagram again. This is the nose, isn't it? Okay, so this is called the external nostril. This is external nostril. Okay, so see, nose is like a triangle, isn't it? Okay, here nostrils will be there. They are the external nostrils. Okay, now see in this triangle, this upper part, this is the upper part of nose. If you pinch your nose, that is upper part. Okay, inside the nasal cavity, this part is responsible for olfaction, olfactory function. What is the sensory function of nose? Is a sense organ, isn't it? Because of that only we will be able to sense the smell. Okay, so which part of nose is responsible for the olfactory function? It's the upper part. If you pinch your nose with your both the fingers, okay, that part is a thing. Okay, so exactly it is here. Okay, so this area, it contains olfactory epithelium, which we will study in the neural system chapter. Okay, olfactory epithelium is present here. This is a previously asked neat question. Okay, so olfactory epithelium is also called as Schneiderian membrane. Schneiderian membrane. This is a previously asked question. Okay, so upper part of the nose in the nasal cavity, it is responsible for olfactory function because it is covered by olfactory epithelium. Olfactory epithelium is also called as Schneiderian membrane. Okay, you just think whenever your nose is getting blocked, any nose block, cough, cold you are having, if you are having cold, common cold, okay, your nose will be blocked. You are not able to feel the sensation of any smell, isn't it? It is because this olfactory epithelium is completely blocked, so that air won't be able to enter that area. So that is the function olfactory epithelium. Okay, this is another very important question for the exam. Respiratory epithelium. Respiratory epithelium is called pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So this is very important. Pseudostratified ciliated columnar glandular epithelium, because it contains mucous cells also. Glandular epithelium. In short, it is called PSCCGE. Pseudostratified ciliated columnar glandular epithelium. Okay, why it is called so, we'll see one by one. Okay, pseudo. You all know the meaning of pseudo, isn't it? Pseudo means false. Okay, stratified. Okay, stratified means multiple layers. Cilia, it contains cilia, that is why it's called ciliated. Okay, and then columnar. Columnar means it's like this. Okay, rectangle shaped cells. Okay, rectangle shaped cells like this. Okay, so now I'm going to, why it is called glandular? Because it contains mucous cells. Glandular because it contains mucous cells. So now I'm going to draw this pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. It's epithelium, isn't it? You will not be able to see with the naked eyes. You need the help of microscope. So the entire respiratory tract is lined by this epithelium. So it's a pseudostratified. Pseudostratified means one tall, one small, like this. One tall, one small. Okay, so it looks like if you see from the top, it looks like a multiple layer, but it's actually a single layer only. That is why that line is called pseudostratified. If you see from the top view, it looks like a multiple layer, but it is actually a single layer only. That is why it's called pseudostratified. Why it is called ciliated? Because it contains those hair-like structures at the apex of the cell. That is why it's called pseudostratified ciliated, and it is columnar shape, isn't it? Why it is called glandular? Because in between it contains mucous cell like this. This is the mucous cells. Okay, that is why it is called pseudostratified ciliated columnar glandular epithelium. Now we are going to talk about the oral cavity or buccal cavity. Okay, so oral cavity or buccal cavity is present between two lips, isn't it? This is the upper lip and this is the lower lip. We all know this cavity contains tongue and it also contains teeth, isn't it? So there is upper lip and lower lip. It includes a cavity called oral cavity or buccal cavity. It contains, or even it's called buccopharyngeal cavity. Okay, and it contains a tongue. Okay, it's a tongue is a muscular organ and it's also a sense organ. Okay, now see this diagram. Again, you are seeing this oral cavity from side. You are seeing like this from the side. Okay, not from the front. This is the front thing. You are not seeing from the front. You are seeing from the side. Okay, just one activity for all of you. Okay, with your tongue, touch the upper part of your oral cavity and just like you just tell me whether it is hard or soft. With your tongue, just touch the upper part. It is hard, isn't it? If you touch here, in this area, it is very hard because that contains bone. That is called hard palate. Okay, so with the help of the tongue, if you are able to touch the upper part, like just below the nose, with your tongue inside the oral cavity, that is called very hard, isn't it? That is called hard palate. Okay, now you with the help of the tongue again try to touch little behind. It will be difficult only, but just try there. Okay, it will be soft when compared to this front area. This is called soft palate. That is hard palate. This is soft palate. Two palates are there over. So oral cavity, it contains two palate, soft hard palate in front and soft palate little behind the hard palate. Now another activity for you. This is again the oral cavity. Now you are all going to stand in front of the mirror and you are all going to open your mouth and put your tongue out. Okay. Now this is the protruding tongue. If you all put your tongue, protrude your tongue out now, you will be able to see some leaf-like structure in the oral cavity, like this. Okay, this leaf-like structure in the oral cavity, this is called uvula. Okay, the leaf-like structure in the oral cavity, that is called uvula. So what is the function of uvula? Everything we are going to see now. Okay, this diagram, now we all familiar with this diagram, isn't it? Nose is there, below that the rectangular thing is upper lip, lower lip, it encloses the oral cavity. Behind the nose, one violet color tube starts, that is called pharynx. Okay, the part which is present behind the nose is called nasopharynx, and behind the oral cavity is called oropharynx, and behind this is called larynx, isn't it? Okay, so now see at the upper end of the larynx there is one flap-like structure. This is called epiglottis. It is a flap. Flap means it's a lid-like structure. It's like a lid. It's going to enclose. It closes some tubes. Okay. Okay. Now we are going to trace the entry of air into the respiratory tract. Okay. See here, via the nose, the air enters. First external nostril, then nasal chamber, then internal nostril will be present here. Then it enters the nasopharynx. From nasopharynx, it should enter the larynx. Some amount of air can also escape into pharynx also, laryngopharynx also, but majority of the air will enter the larynx like this. From larynx, then trachea will be there, then it divides into primary bronchus, at the end it will reach the alveolus. So this is the entry of air into the respiratory system. So now see this diagram. Now we are going to discuss how food is going to enter the pharynx. Okay, because pharynx acts as common passage for both air as well as food and water. So obviously we are going to take food via mouth only. So food is going to enter here. Now food is in there. Now you all started chewing the food. Okay, now there is two possibilities. Okay, either food can enter nose, or it can enter larynx, or it can enter pharynx. There are three possibilities, isn't it? But I want the food only to enter the pharynx. Okay, so if it enters the nose now, what will happen? You all will started sneeze. You will be having cough and sneeze, isn't it? Okay, so first food should not enter the nose. Okay, so the entry of food into the nose is prevented by one important structure. What is the structure? Okay, this is the soft palate. Behind the soft palate this is called uvula. So whenever food enters into the body, this uvula will close the connection here between the nose and the oral cavity. So now see, now food is here. It cannot be able to enter here, isn't it? It will not be able to enter. Now food is here. Okay, now what is another tube we need to block now? This is the larynx. Okay, so larynx will be closed by one leaf-like, flap-like structure, that is called epiglottis. See here, now epiglottis completely closes this structure. This is the epiglottis. Okay, now epiglottis also closed. Now food will be able to enter only the pharynx, that is the laryngopharynx. Okay, this is how food enters the pharynx. Okay, this is what given in your textbook, that pharynx is the common passage for air and food. Okay, now see some of these questions here. Okay, so entry of food into nose is prevented by, okay, so the entry of food from oral cavity to nose is prevented by, we all know it is uvula, isn't it? Okay, so entry of food into larynx is prevented by that flap-like structure or leaf-like structure, that is called epiglottis. See, epiglottis, very important question. It is a cartilage, actually. E for elastic cartilage. Okay, few examples are there. Another one is the Eustachian tube. We'll study that in the connective tissue chapter. Okay, then this is another important question for NEET. Pharynx is the common passage. Okay, now you all tell me which part. Actually, we got three pharynx, isn't it? Nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. Okay, in which pharynx food is which pharynx acts as the common passage for both food and water? It is oropharynx, isn't it? Because food cannot enter the nasopharynx, and laryngopharynx is mainly for entry of food only. Okay, now these are the true or false. Okay, tell me. So some amount of air can enter laryngopharynx, as I said, because it is not covered by that flap-like structure. Okay, only larynx is covered by flap-like structure. So this is true actually. Some amount of air can enter. Okay, that's why we all, after food intake, will do burping, isn't it? Okay, then the next one is some amount of food can enter larynx. It is absolutely wrong. So it is false statement. If food should not enter the lungs, it is only exclusively for air entry only. Okay. Okay, now some factual points we are going to discuss here. Okay, so what are the cartilages? Okay, where and all cartilages are present? Okay, very important. It is actually larynx is a cartilage. Okay, epiglottis, as we discussed already, that is a cartilage. One more line is there, very important. Okay, trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, till initial bronchiole. This till initial bronchiole is very important. Okay, this entire area are supported by cartilages. Okay, supported by cartilages, that too incomplete cartilage ring, incomplete cartilaginous rings. If these cartilage rings are not there now, these structures will collapse. Okay, trachea, primary, secondary, tertiary, all will collapse. Okay, so their main support is cartilaginous, incomplete cartilaginous rings. So larynx is a cartilage, epiglottis is a cartilage, and these structures are supported by cartilaginous rings. That to the day they are incomplete. That word is very important. They are incomplete cartilaginous rings. Now a little bit about trachea. Trachea, we all know it's a cartilaginous ring actually. Okay, just now we studied they are all incomplete. Okay, now the question arises, which part is incomplete, front or back? Okay, in human body actually in front is called ventral and back is called dorsal. Okay, they are dorsally incomplete. Only ventral it is ring, it's like a semi ring structure. Only ventral, this is ventral. Okay, dorsally it is incomplete. Okay, so dorsally incomplete ring like structure, trachea. Okay, so we all know this is trachea. Trachea divides into primary and secondary. Trachea divides into two main bronchus or primary bronchus. At which vertebral level? That is very important. It is, this division is happening at the T5 level. T5 means fifth thoracic vertebral level. Trachea divides into two primary bronchi. That is very important question for NEET. Then regarding larynx. Okay, larynx continues below as trachea. Again, larynx is a cartilaginous structure. Okay, larynx helps in sound production. That is, it is also called sound box. Okay, so the larynx is covered by, you all know, whenever we are swallowing the time, larynx will be covered by epiglottis to avoid the entry of food into the larynx. Okay, we all know we will divide the respiratory tract into two zones, isn't it? One is called conducting zone, another one is called respiratory zone. Respiratory zone is going to participate in gas exchange. This includes mainly two structures. One is respiratory bronchioles, another one is alveoli. What about conducting zone? Conducting zone starts from nose and it is still terminal bronchioles. Terminal bronchiole. This is very so till terminal bronchiole. For example, trachea is not involved in gas exchange. Primary bronchi is not involved in gas exchange. Secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, terminal bronchioles, larynx, these are not going to participate in gas exchange. Their only function is conduction of gas, and another function is there. Okay, so what is this function? It causes humidification of air. Humidification of air. So whenever we are inhaling air, that is from atmosphere only, isn't it? Okay, so what it will do, it will reduce the temperature of that air, as well as it tries to clear the waste particle from it. Okay, so first point is humidification of air. Second one is removes waste particles or dust particles from the air, because it contains, the entire respiratory tract is lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar glandular epithelium, isn't it? Okay, cilia is there. Cilia will try to expel the waste products, as well as it also contains mucus. It's produced because it's a glandular, isn't it? So the mucus will, it won't allow the entry of waste particle because it has got the sticky nature, so waste will stick there only. Okay, so that is the point. These are the two main functions. Okay, so see, this respiratory zone is involved in gas exchange, very very important. The main thing part is this alveoli only. Now some points regarding lungs. Okay, so this is right lung, left lung. Okay, lung. Okay, lung is covered on outer side by double layered membrane. See, I'm going to draw the double layered membrane. This is one membrane and this is the another membrane. Two membranes are there. Okay, this is the inner membrane, isn't it? Okay, these two layers are called actually pleura. Okay, it's a double layer pleura is there. So this is the inner pleura and this is the outer pleural membrane. Okay, so in between these both the pleuras, some cavity is there, some dead space is there. Okay, that cavity is called pleural cavity. Okay, this pleural cavity, what it contains? It contains fluid that is called pleural fluid. Okay, pleural cavity is there that contains a pleural fluid. It is very very important. So what is the function of pleural fluid? If there is no fluid na, both the inner and outer pleura, they both will rub against each other. So the main function of pleural fluid is to avoid friction on lung surface. It avoids friction on lung surface. It avoids friction on lung surface. That is the function of pleural fluid. So see this thing again. Lung is covered by double layered membrane, that is called pleura. Inner pleura, outer pleura. In between those two pleuras, one cavity is there, that is called pleural cavity, which contains fluid, that is called pleural fluid. What is the function of the pleural fluid? To avoid friction on the lung surface. Yes, that's all.